Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're reading, studying, discussing Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, the Lord's childhood pastimes. Text number 39.
ব্যাধি ছলে জগদীশ হিরণ্য সদনে বিষ্ণু নৈবেদ্য খাইল একাদশী দিনে।
Pretending to be sick, the Lord asked for some food from the house of Hiranya and Jagadish on the Ekadashi day. Purport. The Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Kanda, chapter 6, fully describes the Lord's accepting Vishnu Prasadam on the Ekadashi day at the house of Jagadish and Hiranya. Regular prasadam is offered to Lord Vishnu on Ekadashi, because although fasting is recommended for devotees on Ekadashi, it is not recommended for Lord Vishnu. Once on Ekadashi, in the house of Jagadish and Hiranya Pandit, there were arrangements for preparing special prasadam for Lord Vishnu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked his father to go there to ask for the Vishnu prasadam because he was feeling sick. The house of Jagadish and Hiranya Pandit was situated about 2 miles from the house of Jagannath Mishra. Therefore, when Jagannath Mishra, on the request of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came to ask Jagadish and Hiranya for the prasadam, they were a little astonished. How could the boy understand that special prasadam was being prepared for Lord Vishnu? They immediately concluded that Nimai must have supernatural mystic power. Otherwise, how could he understand that they were preparing special prasadam? Therefore, they immediately sent the food to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his father, Jagannath Mishra. Nimai was feeling sick, but immediately after eating the Vishnu prasadam, he was cured. And he also distributed the prasadam among his playmates. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Shayam Rupakata Mahyam Dadati Shapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I'd like to ask for the blessings and permission from the devotees, and especially those who are senior by age or by advancement in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. This is a very interesting verse and purport. Ordinarily, the system generally was for fasting, full fasting on Ekadashi day. There was one instance in the Mahabharata where Dronacharya, the martial guru of the Pandavas and Kauravas, of all the Kauravas and others, he asked his Yudhishthir Maharaj, or Yudhishthir and Duryodhan, to go out on the Ekadashi day and he asked Duryodhan to find some person who was more elevated than he, and he asked Yudhishthir to find someone who was lower than he. You know this? You know this? So they went all day, and Duryodhan came back a little first, and he said, I looked everywhere. I couldn't find anybody, more qualified than me. And then Yudhishthir, he came back a little later. He said, I looked, and near the dear sunset, I found there was a farmer who was collecting water from a well. And I thought, aha, it's Ekadashi day, right? He's going to drink water. So therefore he's breaking, he's not following the Ekadashi very strictly. So then I talked to him and he said, oh no, this water isn't for me, it's for my animals. So Yudhishthira said, well, I looked everywhere and I thought I found, but I didn't find anybody who was less qualified. So anyway, so at least at that time, the system, even drinking water on Ekadashi was the standard, not even drinking water. We know that. So here, that Lord Caitanya, and this is in Kali Yuga, Lord Caitanya is specifically asking for Vishnu Prasad on Ekadashi is unusual. Sometimes people say that Lord Caitanya, because he was exhibiting his Leela as a devotee, he acted in all cases as a devotee. But we see here that Vishnu Prasad he accepted even on the Ekadashi day, which is, even though devotees often fast on Ekadashi day, Vishnu Prasad is still given to the deities. There's no restriction on the offerings given to the Lord. A little question about this, and I would like to get your input on this. You here it says, regular prasadam is offered to Lord Vishnu on Ekadashi, because although fasting is recommended for devotees on Ekadashi, it is not recommended for Lord Vishnu. So how do you interpret that regular prasad? What do you think?
Anna Prasad.
What's that?
Anna.
Yeah, we could think about it. It could be, you think it's Anna?
Regular, yeah. Grains.
Regular. It might even be grains. Yeah.
Grains and beans.
So I know we're in the realm of speculation. I didn't have the volume of the Chaitanya Bhagavat to investigate this. Maybe one of you does. So the regular prasad is often to Lord Vishnu on Ekadashi. But then was that regular prasad the prasad that was offered to the deities at Hiranya and Jagadish's house? Do you follow my question? That says that there was special prasad. What was a special prasad? So I don't know.
Special dishes.
What's that?
Special dishes.
Yeah, like what?
When we make the preparations for the feast, for festivals, we have an elaborate menu.
It might be something, Prabhu, is a pushpanna.
You think it's pushpanna? Okay, something special. But the question might be,
Yeah,
is that grains or not grains? You follow?
it is grain.
You think this is grains?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is grain.
You're saying it's grains. Okay. What do you think, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu?
Yeah, that's why I was contemplating on this. Because when I understand from this, fasting is for the devotees, sadhana, and it's not, Lord doesn't have to observe anything, he's the enjoyer. So for him, there's no, in Jagannath Puri also, it is offered regular grain for Jagannath, there is no fasting. So that's my point, is preparations prepared with the grains and beans, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, but I'm thinking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he comes in the form of a devotee. So did he accept the grain? Because he asked for the prasadam. So that part I was thinking, did he accept the grain that day?
Yeah. And not only that, he accepted whatever that special Vishnu Prasad was from the house of Hiranya and Jagadish. But he not only himself is, because he's Krishna, I mean, he can do as he likes, but he also, at the end, it says that he distributed it to his friends who are not necessarily Krishna, right? At least not Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a very interesting point there. We should research this further. Charu Chandra Prabhu, any insights on this one?
Not currently, but I'm just looking in that chapter right now to see if it was indeed grains or not.
Oh, and you have the Chaitanya Bhagavat there?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. I have different volumes, but I didn't have this volume. I don't have the whole thing. Yeah. Okay, so it'd be very interesting to know. And of course, devotees, Prabhupada has instituted fasting from grains and beans, but still one can fast from everything, or fast even from water, or but the point isn't just the fasting, but the point is especially to increase one's activities of devotional service, especially hearing and chanting about Krishna, either by chanting extra rounds and or hearing about Lord Krishna's instructions or pastimes, especially good on Ekadashi day. It helps us to increase our devotional service, increase our love of God. So, Charu Chandra Prabhu, if you find any other detail there, please let us know. Otherwise, this is a slight mystery here about whether it was that Vishnu Prasad. It seems like other devotees' opinion was that it seems like it's had grains, but and we see later that Lord Chaitanya actually asked his mother to not have grains on Ekadashi. We'll see that later when he was still a child. So,
think
Hare
anyway.
Krishna Prabhu, I
Changed
wanted
my
to say
answer.
something.
Yes, please.
Until 8-year-old, they don't need to do Ekadashi, right? I heard like that something. So how old was they, like the kids?
Who did you hear about the 8-year-old? Where did you hear that from?
I don't remember, but I heard like until 8, you don't need to do Ekadashi, something like that.
Okay, well, if we could get some scriptural reference from that, that would be great. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying that there's not a scriptural reference. I'm just saying that it would be great to get some. Let's find out more about that. So this is something. I mean, these things I like to do because things aren't always cut and dried. They're not always 100% clear. We have to do a little more research on this. Just like we were talking about the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya before, you remember? Maybe it was last week, because Lord Chaitanya, one of the first activities he did was he showed his he rolled over on his back and he showed his feet to his his parents, and they didn't especially notice it. But then later there was they noticed the marks on the floor, and then they looked carefully at Lord Chaitanya's feet, and they noticed these special marks on his lotus feet. And what were those marks? Do you remember? I mean, this is where we're encouraged to meditate on the feet of the Lord. So this is kind of like a way to meditate on the feet of the Lord, to remember some of the signs on those feet. There were 5 things mentioned. Anybody? Please, we don't forget from one week to the next, right?
Was there a lightning bolt?
Yeah, very good. That's Bob. Yeah, lightning bolts. Lightning bolts, yeah. What
Flag.
else?
Trident, Prabhu.
No trident. Sorry.
Flag.
Flag,
Lotus.
that's right. Flag.
Lotus.
No lotus, at least not mentioned in,
Umbrella.
lotus wasn't mentioned in the Caitanya Caritamrita, at least in this part.
Umbrella.
Umbrella, no, not in this part. I got a lightning bolt and a flag so far. Come on. What else?
Conch.
Conch shell, yes, conch shell. Okay. Disc or chakra, right? Disc. And a fish. Those 5 things are mentioned. Those 5 things are mentioned. Then, but you can go on the internet and you find pictures of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, and they sell them. There's 15 items on each of his feet, right feet, left feet. They're not all these things aren't on one foot. So where's the scriptural reference for those 15 items on each foot? I don't know. I looked, I couldn't find it. Maybe some of you can find it. So then I was looking, and I noticed that in Mayapur, during the Gaur Purnima time, just before Gaur Purnima, they installed replicas of the feet of Lord Chaitanya in the Namhata area of Mayapur. So and if you take a close look at those feet, you'll see there's some it looks like there's some marks on those feet. You can't really distinguish those marks, at least the pictures that I saw. So apparently they've incorporated some of those marks on the feet of Lord Chaitanya that they installed in Mayapur this year. So where's the scriptural reference? I don't know. I'd like to find it. Sometimes I looked at one reference, and they had different set of marks on his feet. So it's another area of research we could find. Okay, Chandra Prabhu. Did you find any detail?
Yes, the translations don't mention grains. I copy and pasted the Bengali, but the diacritics have changed since I'm copying from Veda base. So I don't know if in the Bengali there's anything that mentions what the special preparations are. It just says
okay.
that they were special for the occasion of Ekadashi, but it doesn't mention it, at least in the English, if there were grains or not.
Okay, so there might be different opinions on that. Okay, thank you. We have to do further research, or we could ask somebody who knows. I don't know. Okay, any other comments on this?
I'm going to change my answer. I think it was special Ekadasi Prasadam, because if he has given it to his friends or to the other children, then I think it would be what would be right by them also. I don't think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have given them. So still speculation.
Yes, we're all speculating here. But this is okay to try to understand. What the pastimes and the instructions of Lord Krishna. That's good from different angles of vision. So you change your thing. You think it wasn't grains, of course, unless it was as was said that there's no stricture for kids under 8 to follow the strict rules of Ekadashi, stricter rules of Ekadashi. Okay, unless if we can find that. All righty. I'm leaving it at that. No final conclusion. I'm sorry, I can't give a final conclusion on this. Well, when the next time you see a sannyasi or an elevated person, you can ask him that question. What do you think? It'll be fun. A little fun. Okay, that's why we talk about Krishna, because these are these questions. If they occupy our mind about these, I mean, it's a little detail, but still, that's better that than what's going on in the sports world or the political world or whatever.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
In our place, Himachal Pradesh, there is one, I think, temple. When we people go there and bring the uncooked rice from there and give it to other people in the family, one grain of rice. So those people can eat rice then. Because my aunt went somewhere and she brought rice and cooked rice and gave one. I was not there, but she gave one grain to my mother and other people there in the village. And they say that if you eat that one grain, then you can eat rice on Ekadashi day.
You can?
Yeah, we can. If you eat that grain of rice, which she brought from some place and she distributed to everyone. And they say that if you eat that one grain, then you are like not, like you can eat rice then.
Interesting. Yeah, there are different traditions. I don't know where do you happen to know where the source of that tradition comes? Is it from the Shastra or is it from some other place?
Oh, I don't know. It's a tradition there. If someone goes there and brings rice, then. But
I know, like when Lord Krishna was speaking with his father Nanda Maharaj, it was the right after the rainy season, and Nanda Maharaj was organizing a big yajna for the pleasure of Indra Dev. So Lord Krishna asked him, he was a boy of 7, but he asked him, is this from the Vedas or is it just some kind of tradition that you do? It's just kind of, found with a tradition, making a distinction between those two, because sometimes those traditions are consistent or derived from the Vedas, and sometimes people just get together and they have, in certain parts of India, they have certain traditions that might have arisen from some other area, other motive or other impetus from the Vedas. So it'd be good to find out, and maybe you could ask them if they're still living or where they got that idea.
Okay.
Be interesting to find that out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, though. Okay, we'll leave it there for this one. Not very clear. I apologize. Text 40.
শিশু সব লয় পাড়া পড়শির ঘরে, চুরি করি দ্রব্য খায় মারে বালকেরে.
As usual for small children, he learned to play. And with his playmates, he went to houses of neighboring friends, stealing their eatables and eating them. Sometimes the children fought among themselves. Text 41.
শিশু সব শচী স্থানে কইল নিবেদন, শুনি শচী পুত্রে কিছু দিলা উলাহন.
All the children lodged complaints with Sachimata about the Lord's fighting with them and stealing from the neighbors' houses. Therefore, sometimes she used to chastise or rebuke her son.
ক্যানে চুরি করো, ক্যানে মারো হো শিশুরে, ক্যানে পর ঘরে যাহো, কিবা নাহি ঘরে.
Sachimata said, why do you steal others' things? Why do you beat the other children? And why do you go inside others' houses? What do you not have in your own house? Purport. According to the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadhyasya Yata, since creation, maintenance, and annihilation exist in the Supreme Absolute, whatever we find within this material world is already in the spiritual world. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. How is he stealing? And how is he fighting? It is not as a thief or an enemy, but as a friend in a loving condition. He steals as a child, not because he is in want, but out of a natural instinct. In this material world also, small children, without enmity or bad will, sometimes go to a neighboring house and steal. And sometimes they fight. Krishna also, like other children, did all these things in his childhood. Without the existence of the stealing propensity and fighting propensity in the spiritual world, they cannot exist here in the material world. But the difference between the material and spiritual world is that stealing in the spiritual world is done in friendship and love. Whereas fighting and stealing within this material world are executed on the basis of enmity and envy. Therefore, we should understand that in the spiritual world, all these activities exist, but there is no inebriety. Whereas in the material world, all activities are full of miserable conditions. Sometimes you'll find that young children, 10 below, it's not unusual, they fight with their peers. Maybe you fought with your peers when you were a kid, I don't know. Ladies less than the boys, especially boys fight. And, usually it's not a big deal unless there's some serious injury involved. If those same fights occurred among adults, it wouldn't be surprised if somebody's getting arrested and put in jail or fined, isn't it? But in childhood, we don't take it very seriously. Similarly here, because, well, for a variety of reasons. But with Lord Chaitanya, the fighting and the stealing, they're done as Prabhupada says, as a friend in a loving condition. If Lord Krishna takes your offering or takes your things, your life is perfect. Your life is successful. So Lord Chaitanya, he's taking things from others' houses here and there. Sometimes children also steal. Very young children also take things because they want them, not because they're in a nefarious type of mentality, but they're not fully controlled, so they take. So Lord Krishna, though, is always fully controlled as Lord Chaitanya, and he steals things, he takes things, and by doing so, the people's lives are benefited. What do you think? Another aspect of this is he's exhibiting his activities like a regular child, but some of these things, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, they couldn't exist here in the material world if something similar is there in the spiritual world. It's there, but without its negative or inebriety. There's envy in the material world, but there's also envy or jealousy in the spiritual world, but not like the envy here. The gopis said, we are envious or jealous of the bamboo. Why?
Because of the fruit that.
Yes, the bamboo gets to touch Krishna's lips all the time, whereas they only get it, very little. So they said, but of course they weren't trying to bring the bamboo down or destroy the bamboo like, the envy results in this material world. They were appreciating, even though it's mentioned that they had some kind of jealousy toward the bamboo. So without negative or destructive emotions of the same kind of attitudes are there in the spiritual world versus the material world. In the the spiritual world, there's competition to see who can please Krishna the most. And the material world is also competition, but usually if you have a competitor, one will do anything one can to put that competitor down. That's dangerous. I remember even in the material world, sometimes you'll find people they fight with even good intentions or happy intentions. Sometimes I would listen. My father would argue with his friend, and they would go back and forth insulting each other, and I was shocked. What's going on? But it was all in good fun. But because they had such respect for each other, it was that in the attitude of respect, they could have play fighting without disturbing their mutual respect. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a sign of this kind of thing, fighting or stealing in the material world without any variety. That's like it is in the spiritual world. Thank you, Charuchandra Prabhu, for that text. Comments, questions, observations?
So spiritual world, it seems, in full of rasas, in different kind of rasas, the way we see. It's not dull or it's not quiet. And sometimes perceived. So there are also same activities are there in spiritual world also. Only thing is, one is, as you said, the competition of Krishna to serve, to please him will be there.
Yes, good point.
Everyone derives pleasure keeping Krishna in their life. So
Krishna is the center. Yeah. Good.
Basically, similar life is there in spiritual world also. I'm thinking, same, but it's in different nature. And that's what I was, thinking. What did the Lord Chaitanya is in reciprocation with his friends, his friendly relationship, Sakhya Rasa.
Yes. Acharya Prabhu, I see your hand up.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to share how Srila Prabhupada's father, Gaur Mohan Dey, was very liberal with Prabhupada, even spoiling him a little, but sometimes he would chastise him. But before he would say, "I'm very sorry, please don't mind." But even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father would sometimes have to chastise him. So I'm doing to you.
Thank you. Yeah, very good observation. Thank you for that. So even, in the mood of the Vatsalya Ras, there's part of that is to chastise. Good. Thank you. Lord Chaitanya's mother here. Next verse.
শুনি ক্রুদ্ধ হয়া প্রভু ঘর ভিতর যায়া ঘরে যত ভাঁড় ছিল ফেলিল ভাঙ্গিয়া।
Thus he rebuked his mother. I guess that should be the Lord, would go in anger to a room and break all the pots in it. You know what that's called? A tantrum, right? That's a tantrum. So he's a transcendental tantrum here. Okay. Text 44.
তবে শচী কোলে করি করাইল সন্তোষ লজ্জিত হইলা প্রভু জানি নিজ দোষ।
Then Sachi Mata would take her son on her lap and pacify him, and the Lord would be very much ashamed, admitting his faults. Purport, this is a nice description of the faults of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his childhood. Oh, sorry, there is a nice description of the faults of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his childhood in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Kanda, chapter 3, where it is said that as a child, the Lord used to steal all kinds of eatables from the houses of neighboring friends. In some houses, he would steal milk and drink it. And in others, he would steal and eat prepared rice. Sometimes he would break cooking pots. If there was nothing to eat, but there were small babies, the Lord would tease the babies and make them cry. Sometimes a neighbor would complain to Sachimata, "My child is very small, but your child puts water in his ears and makes him cry." So after breaking the pots, we see that Sachimata didn't punish him further. See, she took him on his lap, pacified him. So it wasn't all punishment. She punished him by scolding him, right? And then as a result, he had this tantrum.
And she gave into his tantrum.
In a sense, yeah. Text 45.
কবু মৃদু হস্তে কইল মাতাকে তাড়ন, মাতাকে মূর্ছিতা দেখি করয়ে ক্রন্দন.
Once the child, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, chastised his mother with his soft hand, and his mother pretended to faint. Seeing this, the Lord began to cry. Can we see the Bengali? Can we go up to the Bengali? By his soft hand, chastised, tadan. Okay, so chastised his mother with what? He hit his mother? Is that how you understand it? How would you chastise with your hand unless you do some kind of hit, right? I don't know. Okay.
মৃদু হস্তে, like just a tap, I guess.
Tap, yeah. Okay, next.
নারীগণ কহে নারিকেল দেহ আনি, তবে সুস্থ হইবেন তোমার জননী.
The neighboring ladies told him, "Dear child, please bring a coconut from somewhere, and then your mother will be cured."
বাহিরে যায়া আনিলেন দুই নারিকেল, দেখিয়া অপূর্ব হইল বিস্মিত সকল.
He then went outside the house and immediately brought 2 coconuts. All the ladies were astonished to see such wonderful activities.
কবু শিশু সঙ্গে স্নান করিল গঙ্গাতে, কন্যাগণ আইলা তাহা দেবতা পূজিতে.
Sometimes the Lord would go with other children to bathe in the Ganges, and the neighboring girls would also come there to worship various demigods. Purport. According to the Vedic system, when small girls, 10 or 12 years old, would go to the bank of the Ganges to take their bath, they would especially worship Lord Shiva with prayers to get good husbands in the future. They especially wanted to get a husband like Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva is very peaceful and at the same time most powerful. Formerly, therefore, small girls in Hindu families would worship Lord Shiva, especially in the month of Vaishakha, April, May, right now. To take a bath in the Ganges is a great pleasure for everyone, not only for adults, but for children also. Yes, so this is a system. I don't know if any of you did this also in your youth, childhood. Ladies, not the gents. Yes? Did you worship Lord Shiva?
Not Lord Shiva, but Goddess Parvati.
Okay, Shiva, Parvati. Yeah. So the idea is to get a husband like Lord Shiva, who's very powerful, peaceful, and who's a great devotee. Even though, from a material standpoint, he doesn't live in palaces. He lives, where is his place? Where does he stay?
In the mountains.
Sometimes he's in Kailash, and sometimes he's in a crematorium, isn't it?
Mission.
Smashan, yeah. So, but because of his being a great devotee of Lord Krishna, therefore they worship Lord Shiva, hoping to get a good husband. The gopis, they worshipped. Do you know who they worshipped also? What's that?
Katyayani.
Katyayani, yeah. Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. So I've told this story several times that I was speaking with a Ramanuja Vaishnav. Now he's a sannyasi. He said the difference between the Gaudiyas and the followers of the Sri Sampradaya is sometimes the Gaudiyas worship demigods. It's allowed, but in Sri Sampradaya, it's not allowed at all. That's what he said. He was quite a learned person. I said, how is that? People. So he quoted, yes, the gopis, they worshipped Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. So to worship the demigod to get Krishna, that was somehow allowed. Of course, if you read the purport in Srimad Bhagavatam by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it says, he says that actually the gopis were not worshipping Katyayani, the expansion of, but they were worshipping the original source of Katyayani, Yogamaya, who makes arrangements in the spiritual world, of whom Katyayani, goddess Katyayani, is an expansion. It's interesting because if you look at different names of the associates of Krishna, one of the names of Lakshmi is in the spiritual world is Durga, but it's a different Durga than the material world Durga. So you can get confused. There's two. Can we refer to Lakshmi or the material Durga in the material world? So anyway, these girls were doing that. They were worshiping Lord Shiva and or Katyayani and or Yogamaya for good husbands. And this month. So are any of the daughters doing that also here?
Nobody does.
So, and what about worshiping? We don't worship Lord Krishna to get a good husband or a good wife, right? We simply depend on Krishna. Okay. Text 49.
গঙ্গা স্নান করি পূজা করিতে লাগিলা কন্যাগণ মধ্যে প্রভু আসিয়া বসিলা.
When the girls engage in worshiping the different demigods after bathing in the Ganges, after bathing in the Ganges, the young Lord would come there and sit down among them. This is quite unusual because usually there's an area for the ladies to bathe and there's an area for the gents to bathe, isn't it? You know better than me. So the Lord coming over to the ladies' area is a little unusual. Okay, text 50.
কন্যারে কহে আমা পূজো আমি দিব বর গঙ্গা দুর্গা দাসী মোর মহেশ কিঙ্কর.
Addressing the girls, the Lord would say, worship me, and I shall give you good husbands and good benedictions. The Ganges and Goddess Durga are my maidservants. What to speak of other demigods, even Lord Shiva is my servant. Purport. There's a misconception about the Hindu religion among people who profess other religions, such as Christians and Muslims, who say that in the Hindu religion, there are many gods. Actually, that is not a fact. God is one. But there are many other powerful living entities who are in charge of different departments of administration. They are called demigods. All the demigods are servants who carry out the orders of the Supreme Lord. the personality of Godhead, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, disclosed this fact in his childhood. Out of ignorance, sometimes people worship the demigods to receive some particular boon, but actually, one who becomes a devotee and worshiper of the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to go to the demigods for any benediction, because he obtains everything by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Bhagavad Gita 7:20 and 28 therefore condemns such demigod worship. Kamaistaistarhita jnana prapadyante anyadevata tam tam niyamamastaya prakritya niyatasvaya. Only persons whose intelligence is lost and who are mad with lusty desires worship the demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Jesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam vidharata. But persons who are freed from all sinful activities and the duality of delusion engage themselves in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with determination. Only the less intelligent worship the demigods for their various purposes. The most intelligent worship only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Sometimes we, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, are accused of not approving the worship of demigods. But how can we approve of this when it is condemned by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna? How can we allow people to become foolish and dhritagana, bereft of intelligence? Our propaganda is simply meant to enable intelligent people to understand the distinction between matter and spirit and understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the whole spiritual identity. That is our mission. How could we mislead people into worshiping so-called gods in material bodies within this material world? Our position of not allowing worship of the many hundreds of demigods was confirmed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even in his childhood. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in this connection, Anya Devashraya Nai Tomare Kohinu Bhai E Bhakti Paramakarana. To become a staunch, pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without deviation, Ananya Bhak, one should not divert his attention to the worship of the demigods. Such control is a symptom of pure devotional service. Wow, very strong purport. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the claim by the Christian and Muslims about the Hindus is that they worship many, many gods. Actually, even in the Christian, Muslim, Old Testament Bible, they also have many gods mentioned. And the commandment, there's the 10 commandments that they follow from the Old Testament. I don't know, the first one is love the Lord thy God with all their heart, etc., mind and soul. Then love thy neighbor as thyself. Then not to have other gods before him. You know that? So it's not that they don't say that there are other gods. Yes, there are other gods, but there's one supreme God. Same thing we say, and same thing Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam. Take shelter of me only. Aham tong sarva papebhyo mokshyashyami ma shucha. So the claim that it's only the Hindus that have many gods, we recognize there are many gods, but those Vaishnava Hindus, they recognize that Ekala Ishar Krishna Ar Shabritya, as Lord Chaitanya is saying. There's one Supreme Lord, Ekala Ishwar Krishna, Ekala Ishar, one Supreme Controller, Ar Shabritya. Everybody else is a servant. Yeah, so we recognize that that's our position, the position of the Vaishnavas, and supported by Vedic literature and supported by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna as well. Sometimes people who are coming from the general Hindu background, they became angry at the Hare Krishna system. Oh, you only worship Krishna, nobody else. But that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Ekala Ishwar Krishna. Yeah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Mata parataram nanya. There's no truth superior to me. So we're okay with that. Other people may not be, but that's okay. Lord Chaitanya was promulgating that same understanding right from the very beginning of his manifest pastimes in this world. Hare Krishna. Comments, questions, observations? Yes, I think you must have some statement, comment. No? Okay. Let's look at the next verse. I think we're coming close to the end of, yeah.
আপনি চন্দন পরি পরেন ফুলমালা নৈবেদ্য কারিয়া খান সন্দেশ চাল কলা.
Without the permission of the girls, the Lord would take the sandalwood pulp and smear it on his own body, put the flower garlands on his neck, and snatch and eat all the offerings of sweetmeats, sandesh, right? Rice and bananas, purport. According to the system of worship, when something is offered to deities outside one's home, it is generally not cooked food, but raw rice, bananas, and sweetmeats outside the home. Yeah. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord would snatch the offerings from the girls and eat them, admonishing the girls not to worship the demigods, but to worship him. This worship of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varanam, Fisha Krishnam, Sangopangashta Parshadam, Jagyayar Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedhasa. One should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead who appears in the age of Kali with his associates as the Panchatattva, the Lord himself, and his associates, Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Prabhu, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, and Sri Vastakhar. In this age, an intelligent person worships the Panchatattva by the method of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And, if possible, distributing prasadam. Where's that in the verse? Our Krishna consciousness movement is introducing this bona fide method of worship in the Western world. Its members are going from village to village and town to town with deities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, teaching people how to worship the Lord by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, offering prasadam, and distributing prasadam to people in general. So the two things emphasized here is the chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya. And if one can please Lord Chaitanya, then oneself will be pleased, one's heart will be cleansed for that. And also mentioned here is the distribution of prasadam to people in general. So, and especially in festival days, it's tomorrow is Nishringa Chaturdashi, there'll be elaborate distribution of prasadam. Also on Ratha Yatra days. And I think there's also a program they're doing in Kensington now where they distribute prasadam to the people there. Doesn't have to be all people in difficult conditions. Anybody could take that prasadam and that way be uplifted by the Krishna's mercy, prasadam. Okay. Questions, comments, additions, subtractions, corrections? Thank you. thank you all very much for your attention. So we're going to look further into whether about the 8-year-old thing. Yes. Yes. And we can examine this idea of what happened with if you meet someone, you can ask about whether that was grains or not that Lord Chaitanya took from Jagadish and Hiranya, and the feet of Lord Chaitanya. If you can find the source of the scriptural source of the marks on Lord Chaitanya's feet. It might be in the writings of the Goswamis or somebody, but I couldn't find it so far. I couldn't find any reference. All right, thank you very much. Jai Shri Krishna. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhye cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vishnugada Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you all.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.